A Boeing 7 with 404 people on board suddenly lost control. The co-pilot immediately pulled out a checklist to see if there was a solution. However, the checklist doesn't provide an effective solution. At this point, the plane was still 6 hours away from Narita Airport. It was too risky to fly that far, so Captain Gulf decided to land the plane at a city international airport, which was only 2 hours away. The captain immediately asked the co-pilot to contact air traffic control and request an emergency. However, the co-pilot called twice in a row, but got no response. It turns out that the plane is now in the middle of 2 continents over the ocean. This is the dead zone of communication, so the co-pilot contacted a closer flight, Air 19, to get the message across. Captain Gulf then took the plane into a right turn. The crew hadn't been trained to do anything like that, so they had to improvise. Meanwhile, the other 2 pilots returned to the cockpit. Captain Hansen was briefed on the situation and decided that he would take the controls, but when he takes over, he realizes that it's a lot harder than he thought it would be to steer the plane. It was a bit of a struggle, but at least the plane was still flying, and it was going in the right direction. The passengers in the cabin had no idea what was happening. They thought it was just turbulence, but what they don't know is that there's still a fatal scene going on in the cockpit. The crew decided to tell the passengers the truth.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Captain Frank Gieb. We are dealing with a malfunction at the moment, and our crew is dealing with the situation as best we can. We need everybody to remain calm. And please, give your flight attendants your complete attention.
The plane was still 1,300 kilometers from its destination. At 35,000 feet, it was becoming increasingly difficult to keep the plane balanced. Captain Hansen decided to descend to a lower altitude. Because the air is denser at lower altitudes, it provides more lift. The plane descended to 28,000 feet without incident. But the strain of the maneuver left Captain Hansen sweating and his legs beginning to cramp. To relieve the pressure, the plane was manned by a co-pilot. After 30 minutes of flight, Air 85 was able to talk directly to air traffic control. The airport is surrounded by mountains. Flight 85 had to fly over the mountains to reach the airport, but the crew has only one chance to land. In order to land the plane successfully, Captain Hansen decided to conduct a simulated landing. To see how the rudder failure would affect the plane, they decided to drop the plane to 14,000 feet. After testing the plane, it flew that way without any problems, but the damaged rudder raised new concerns. The rudder is related to airspeed and altitude. The lower the altitude, the more pronounced the rudder deflection, and the plane becomes more difficult to maneuver. Soon the plane was near the airport. As the speed of the aircraft slowed down, it became less maneuverable. The plane became less maneuverable and almost impossible to steer. So Captain Hansen decided to use the throttle to control the balance of the plane. He told the co-pilot to increase the thrust on the left engine and reduce the thrust on the right engine. This helps to keep the plane straight, but it's also very dangerous. If the upper rudder were to break off at this point, the plane would be completely out of control. Captain Hansen put his co-pilot in charge of the stick. He'll take charge of the front wheels and the brakes. By now, the ground crew is prepared for the worst. Everything is ready. Flight 85 will begin its descent.